Hey everybody, welcome to the My Summer Car how-to series from Game a Day Gamer here on the Game a Day Gamer channel. Welcome. You're going to want to subscribe to stay up to date with My Summer Car news as well as adventures and other cool things that we'll be doing as a side project on this channel. So as you can see, I've already started my game, and for important reasons. I wanted to skip right to it, but here's a couple things that you need to know and that I screwed up in my original video, besides how I built the engine. I went to the store and I got more supplies than you can shake a stick at. Looks like my bag didn't make the save, but that's okay, everything else seems to be here. You must take the gas canister with you and fill it up if you want to even test your car once you're done building it. So make sure you take your gas canister with you, buy the belt, fill up your gas, get 2 things of brake fluid, and get 1 each of the other fluids as well as your foods that you're going to need for the next couple days as you build the car. If you don't do that first, you might as well not even be playing. First things first, let's unload the car. Now, we're going to end up filling everything out here, so I'm just going to leave all the fluids right here. I'm not even going to bother taking them into the garage. The belt, on the other hand, will go into the garage because that's where we're going to assemble the engine today. Alright, we'll worry about organizing most of this later. We just want to get the fluid out, and we can eat and drink right from here when the time comes. Which actually may be soon. Perfect. Alright, another bit of fair warning before we start this car project. When you're building the car, you can easily dent and damage the body just by running into it or jumping into it. I will be showing you a way to make the body mint once you're done putting it together. Because at this point, it's really hard not to damage the body at all. So look for that video. Alright, now, let's give this a go. First things first, this is what I like to do. I like to organize my little workspace a little bit better. Now, it does look like it's getting darker outside, but no problem. We've got a light switch. Sometimes the lights go on and off by themselves, which is slightly annoying, and hopefully will be addressed shortly. We're just going to adjust all this paint quickly and easily. As a suggestion, what I would do if I were you is to make sure you save your game at the end of each step. So at the end of this video, make sure you save. I've actually jumped on top of a car and had it flip over. Let's get this party started, shall we? Alright, the first thing you're going to need is the engine block. And you're going to rotate it upside down first. Now with the engine on the table ready to go, let's grab the crankshaft. And the crankshaft should just place right in there like so. Now, pick up the block and rotate it so the camshaft is facing you. Next is these 3 bearings right here. Main bearing 1 through 3. Finding the placement on the first one sometimes can be difficult. Now, each one of these bearings has 2 bolts. To crank down those 2 bolts, we are going to use a spanner 9. To loosen or unloosen a bolt, you have to use the mouse wheel to scroll. To tighten, scroll up. With those 6 bolts tightened, now we're going to switch to the pistons. I didn't mention this earlier, but in order to switch between your hands and your tool, you have to press number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is the hands. So we're going to go grab a piston. We're going to rotate it over with the mouse button. Give it a little look-see. Looks like a good piston. And they lock in quite quickly and easily. Now, each of the 4 pistons has 2 bolts that you're going to use a 7 millimeter spanner on. Next, we're going to pick up the block and rotate it over like so. We're going to be putting on the head gasket. This just drops right on, easy as can be. Next, the cylinder head. Now the cylinder head has 10 bolts, 7 millimeter size spanner. You should still have that in your hand, so we'll just tighten it right down. Now it's time for the rocker shaft. Rocker shaft drops right on top like so. There are 5 bolts, 8 millimeter. Perfect. Next, we're going to stick in the camshaft. Now the camshaft usually goes right in this hole right here, so that's what we're going to aim for. Perfect. We're going to grab ourselves a size 5 spanner or 5 millimeter spanner. We're going to pick up the block and we're going to rotate it. To get to these 2 bolts right here. Next, it's the camshaft gear. It's going right on the same end that we just had it on. Camshaft gear is 1 bolt, 10 spanner. A 10 spanner. Now it's starting to look like an engine. Nice. We're going to add the timing chain next. That's easy. Just like so. Timing cover coming up next. Now the timing cover is 6 bolts, size 6 spanner. Next, we install the water pump. The water pump takes a size 7. Now for the crankshaft pulley. The crankshaft pulley has 1 bolt and it uses a size 11 spanner. Then it's time for the water pump pulley. The water pump pulley uses 7 millimeter spanner and has 4 bolts. Now for the distributor. The distributor is a 6 millimeter spanner and it only has 1 bolt to screw in. Now it's time for the alternator. Now make sure when you're doing this at home to keep an eye on your meters because you don't want to let them get up too high. I'm going to have to use some nap time here soon, looks like. We're going to spin this block so we can see the alternator better, of course. Now, grab your 10mm spanner for the alternator. Now grab yourself a spanner 7 to finish putting the alternator together. Nice. Next we're going to set our fan belt here and grab our screwdriver out of our handy dandy case. And we're going to tighten down the alternator. Excellent. Now before we apply the fan belt, we're going to do a few more simple things. We're going to rotate the block. We're going to put on the engine plate, which goes on the back here like so. Oops. Boom, engine plate on. And now we're going to build ourselves a little clutch here out of these 3 pieces right here on the shelf. Clutch pressure plate, clutch cover plate, and clutch disc. So the clutch pressure plate goes to the clutch cover plate, and the clutch disc goes to it as well. I'm going to set that bad boy right there. We're going to attach the flywheel now. The flywheel uses a size 7 spanner. And now we can throw the clutch on it. Nice. The clutch has 6 bolts and they're size 6. Next, it's time for the starter. Alright. Now the starter is a size 7 spanner, and it's got 2 little bolts here. Cool, starter's in. Now for the carburetor. Carburetor uses a size 8 spanner and has 4 bolts. Nice. With the carburetor on, it's time to put on the oil filter. Now with the oil filter, you have to remember to rotate it on with your mouse wheel. Something I forgot in the last video. Not good. Now, after we rotate to this side, we're going to throw on these headers here. Nice. Since we already have the size 8 in our hand, we're going to screw this on. The headers have a total of 5 things to screw. Now we're going to spin this over. We're going to put the oil pan on it. Now, the first thing that I always do with the oil pan so I don't forget is I grab a size 13 spanner and I plug the oil plug. That could be a devastating mistake. For the rest, it's 7mm spanner. Success. Time for the gearbox. The gearbox also uses 7mm. A total of 6 of them. Then you grab your 10mm spanner And this guy goes in right here to complete it. Next, we're going to throw in this good old drive gear. The drive gear is a 6mm spanner. Nice. Now we're going to go for the rocker cover. Oh, Jesus. Rocker covers on. The rocker cover uses a 7mm spanner. It has 6 bolts total. Next, we're going to attach the good old fuel pump. The fuel pump uses 7mm as well. It has 2 of them. Easy enough. We're going to attach the electrics right after we throw in the spark plugs. Now, like the oil filter, you also have to screw in the spark plugs even though there's no color indicator. Using your third mouse button, pushing up on it will make them go in. Nice. Now it's time for the electrics. Beautiful. Electrics are on. Well, would you look at that? Besides the air filter and the fan belt, you are looking at a complete motor. Boom! Fan belt on. That's it. That's a complete motor. So what you're going to make sure you do is drop it in front of the hoist right here, just like so. You want to make sure the headers are facing away from you. Use the right mouse button clicking to lower it. Alright, when you think you're close, get on down, pick this fucker up. Move it forward. Oops. Alright. Now, with a 10mm spanner, once it's close, you're going to start bolting, and if all works well, you'll see your motor settle once you place the second screw. Perfect. Now, use your left mouse button to hoist it up. And you have a ready motor. Thanks for tuning in to our very special how-to for My Summer Car, Episode 1, How to Build an Engine. Tune in for Episode 2, How to Build a Chassis, coming up next.